Hello! Rowan here. We Damage We is the channel. I've had a decent influx of people coming in and viewing and commenting because of my review that I did in tandem with Juan at Plagued by Visions. So if you're here because of Juan, thank you so much for coming and watching and commenting and giving me feedback. Everybody's been super nice. But I don't have a book review today. I have a tag, which just came out. This is a tag, an original tag by Rick McDonnell. I will, no, right there. It's called the In and Out tag, which is a list of 26 tropes in books, and you are meant to say whether you are in or out on them and why. I thought this was pretty fun. I liked his video a lot. I thought this was a really good idea for a tag. I've never seen a tag like this, so I'm excited to do it. Let's let's just dive right into it, shall we? Up first, reading the last page first. I am out on this one. I don't get anything out of doing that. I think some people want to know if the ending is sad or something like that. But how much can you really glean from the last page of a book with no context? Like, if you read the last page of Blood Meridian, you would read about a man named the Judge playing the fiddle and dancing around a campfire. And that means nothing to you. But that is such an amazing ending for that book. That book has such an incredible finale. And in a way that I can't express to you what that means, what that image means. It's something that you can only really experience with the context and the experience of having read the entire book. So I find the reading the last page thing to just be worthless for your time. Number 2, enemies to lovers. I'm gonna say I'm out on this one. I just don't usually buy it, I guess. I think that this is really hard to pull off. Redemption is hard to pull off in the first place. And usually, when someone is redeemed, they're shown that, like, you thought of them as being one pole, one extreme, and then instead they kind of are shown to live somewhere in the middle, right? So it's pretty hard to go all the way bad to all the way good and have it be believable. That's just my thought. Number 3, dream sequences. I'm going to give this one a unenthusiastic in. I think that a lot of dream sequences are bad. I think it's hard to write them in a way that is compelling. Anybody who's ever had a dream described to them knows that it's not usually interesting. It's just chaos, you know? It's like your subliminal mind is just flickering images into your brain that don't mean anything. And so it takes someone pretty masterful to pull it off. But I do like them because I think that it is an opportunity to do something experimental and different and exciting and interesting. So that's why I'll give them an in. Number 4, love triangles. May surprise you, but I'm in on this one because love triangles are very dramatic, and boy oh boy do I love me some drama. Again, this is something that can be leaned on probably too heavily, and it's probably too prevalent, but not in the worlds of literature that I explore. I feel like there are places in literature where this is overused, and people are probably rightly sick of it. But for me, it hasn't overstayed its welcome yet. Number 5, cracked spines. I'm gonna go out on this one, but I don't have strong feelings about it. I used to crack spines when I was like a teenager, and I read more things that are published as mass market paperbacks, because it's kind of like, it's not that easy to crack the spine on a trade, I feel like, unless it's like pretty long. But just generally, I feel like the way that I've treated my books, I've become more precious over time to them, and wanted to treat them nicely and have them hold up. So yeah, I don't crack spines. Number 6, moving back to my small town. I am going to go out on this one, but with the full culpability of that my book that I wrote is about this to a degree. Moving back to the suburbs, at least, from the city. So it's not small town, it's not rural. But yeah, I don't think that small towns are very interesting to me. Maybe I'm just biased because I grew up in a metropolitan area, but it feels like the lack of culture in a small town makes it so that they all feel the same to me. And the books like this sort of all feel the same to me. Yeah, I don't know. Number 7. Monsters are regular people. I'm gonna stay in. This is one that I'm my appreciation for this is on the decline. I feel like in the last 10-15 years, a lot of genre fiction has really been driving this point home to the point where it's becoming boring. But I do think that, like, the point behind fantastical monsters and mythic creatures has always been to serve as a metaphor for humanity and how we see ourselves in them. So I like it, you know. I think it's, when it's done right, it's really good. So number 8, no paragraph breaks. I'm in on this. I don't feel that strongly about it, but it doesn't really bother me at all. I just read Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin not that long ago, and that didn't have paragraph breaks, but it was also very short. I read the whole book in 2 hours. So, I mean, something more substantial, like Duck's Newburyport or something, maybe that can be grating, but I think that there's a purpose. It's the momentum never ceases, and if it's done right, then it can be powerful. It's a way that, a sort of metatextual way to give more weight to your prose. So I'm into that. Number 9, multi-generational sagas. I'm in. One of my favorite books is 100 Years of Solitude, which is like the ultimate multi-generational saga, right? I think that multi-generational sagas are interesting because you have to not rely on characters because you will be having many of them, and they won't stick around. You don't have a character arc. Well, you do, but you don't have like a main character arc. The arc isn't about the hero's journey or whatever, which is interesting, and it allows you to tell really specific types of stories that can't be told in other ways, and I think that's really interesting. So I'm a fan. Rereading, yeah, I think that what Rick said in the original video was pretty much spot on. So I'm going to paraphrase him, which is like, there's no way to get everything out of a book with one pass. And so, if you love a book, why not get as much out of it as you can? Especially when most other things that you read, you're not going to love as much as whatever it is that you feel compelled to reread. When I was younger, I used to reread a lot. And I haven't really reread much in the last 10 years or so. Earlier this year, I reread Blood Meridian, which I mentioned earlier. And that was an amazing experience, getting to reread that, with the benefit of 10 years of experience under my belt, and a different view of the world, and a different place in my life for the context of the book to ring true or hollow against. It's every time you read a book, you will have a different experience, no matter how many times you've read it before, and you will always get something new out of it. So I think that you're doing a disservice to the books that you love if you only read them one time. 11. Artificial intelligence. I just feel like this is kind of in the zeitgeist right now, because AI is becoming such a real life thing. It's not usually, in my experience, this is not usually handled in ways that I find interesting. Usually it's like, we find humanity in artificial intelligence, which is kind of like the monsters are humans trope, but not really. And then the other one is like, man is God and creator. On paper, both of those things are interesting themes. I just feel like they've been done too much, and I'm not intrigued by them anymore. So, yeah. Number 12, drop caps. Yeah, I think drop caps are cool. They could use a renaissance, I think. Nothing wrong with them. 13, happy endings. This is conflicting. Let me explain myself. I want satisfying endings. Now, a happy ending can be satisfying, especially in something like a romance, right? You want there to be a happy ending. But to me, real life doesn't have like happy endings. It is always, at most, a mixed bag. So for like a romance, I think of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That is a movie that's a romance, and it has a happy ending, but it's not a happy ending, you know, like these two people find each other despite all of this adversity. They overcome all of these struggles to be with each other, but they have to accept that they may not be meant for each other. and they decide in a very adult, mature way that they're going to try anyways, knowing that they could fail. And that's how we're left. We're left not knowing the ultimate fate of them. They may not work out. But that's a very real ending. That's how real life works. So, when I say I'm out on happy endings, I guess I'm just out on, like, unrealistically happy endings. I have had issues with unrealistically sad endings too. I am probably predisposed to liking sad endings more than happy endings, and feeling very pessimistic and feeling like sad endings are truer and things like that might not be objectively true, but I just want something in the middle. That's just me. 14. Separate plot points that only converge at the end. I'm in on this. I think that it doesn't always work. Like, All the Light We Cannot See, that wasn't quite at the end that they converged, but, like, that was a book that didn't really do it for me. That's a good example of plots converging. But I think that it can be really interesting when you have two parallel narratives that are on the surface unrelated, but you're able to, through their parallelness, show how they relate subtextually, if you're good. That's the point, right? So I think it presents the opportunity to tell a story that's really interesting and can't be told in a different way, which is always, to me, the marker of, like, essential literature, something that can't be told any other way. I think one thing that's cool is, like, plot points that don't converge, like Cloud Atlas, where it's just these 5 parallel narratives that all, twirl each other and never come together, but you glean how they're related, and they hold each other up and inform each other, and it's fascinating. 15. Detailed magic systems. 2 thumbs down. I struggle a lot with fantasy, epic fantasy. A problem that I have with fantasy regularly is that so much energy and creativity and innovation is put into creating these magic systems, races, worlds, and then the quality of the writing just doesn't hold those things up. I can't be compelled by ideas alone. I need the book to actually be good. I think that in the world of fantasy, most people who read fantasy are a lot more forgiving than I am of mediocre prose and plotting and character development when the world building is really good. I want both. I want a good book that has an interesting world. Like the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. That's a very good fantasy series of books. One thing that Rick talked about in the original video was how when you get really intricate, it kind of takes the magic away from magic. That's true too. I think that things getting bogged down kind of show the man behind the curtain and make it less interesting. And that's something that the Broken Earth trilogy does really well, where things are never really explained. You understand how things work, but you don't understand why things are the way they are, which I think is good. 16, classic fantasy races. Again, I'm going to go thumbs down on this, if only because these have been driven into the ground. Dwarves and elves and gnomes and halflings have been done to death. It's so rare that someone does something innovative or interesting with these creatures, because the rules for them are so strict. I feel the same way about zombies. Zombies are just boring now, because there's like 5 metaphors that you can pull from a zombie, and every zombie movie, book, whatever, uses one of those. So after you've read 5 of them, then you have read them all. And it's like, oh, well, in this one, the zombies are fucking fast. Didn't expect that one. Or like, the zombies can talk. I know this prompt isn't about zombies, but just like every fucking thing with elves. Elves live in the woods. Elves hunt with a bow. Elves like the trees. Elves live forever. Like, why iterate on Tolkien? He did it. He did it. That's why, people have tried in my life to get me to read The Wheel of Time, and I'm like, why? It doesn't do anything new. 17, Unreliable Narrators. Yes, please. I think that when people don't like unreliable narrators, I think that they are thinking about it wrong. Because all narratives, when they're told through the lens of a character, of a narrator, are unreliable. Because the human experience is subjective. Some narrators are just more unreliable than others. And I think that not liking an unreliable narrator says more about you as a reader than anything else. Where you don't feel comfortable disliking and distrusting your character. But I think that's small-minded. I think that reading about people you don't like is a learning experience. I think that you can gain a lot through that. That's why every once in a while I make sure to read something outside of my comfort zone. Because even if I don't like it, I feel like I get something out of it. 18. Evil Protagonists. I'll give this one an in, for similar reasons to the last prompt. I think that the idea that you have to like your protagonist in a book is dumb. When I wrote my book, I actively tried to make the protagonist as unlikable as possible. Now, that's not to say that he's not sympathetic, or that you can't empathize with him, or see yourself in him. But you don't need to like him. He can be evil. He can do evil things. Because everybody does evil things sometimes. I think that there's a trend right now, exemplified by the Cruella de Vil movie, where they're taking these classic villains and giving them their vehicle and then humanizing them. The Joker movie, another great example. This sort of ties back into the monsters are people prompt, where we're being presented with the villain as the protagonist, and then we learn to sympathize with them and understand them and see why they are villainous. Because Cruella de Vil's parents were murdered by a pack of Dalmatians. Yes, that actually happens in the movie. I haven't seen it, but I read about it on Twitter. I just think that this is one of those things where it needs to be well done. I don't have a problem with it in concept, but I think that examples like the Joker movie, which I thought was as a movie, it was like okay, but if you actually like think about it and unpack it and unpack what it means and like the broader culture and things, it becomes problematic pretty fast. It doesn't have great things to say about people with mental health problems. It's possible to do this well, and I think that if you do it well, it's really compelling. How many times can I mention Blood Meridian in this tag? The kid is evil. He commits genocide. He murders children. All the characters in that book are awful. There's not a redemptive person in it. And it's an amazing book. Number 19, The Chosen One. Thumbs down. Ouch. I think that this is like usually like white people power fantasy bullshit. Hero's journey is so... I know it's the fucking basis for like every story ever told, but I'm bored of it, okay? So sue me. I'm sorry, Joseph Campbell. Rest in peace. I'm just like, it's been done. You know what's an interesting take on this? The Adventure Zone Amnesty, which is a actual play RPG podcast hosted by the McElroy brothers and their dad. And in Amnesty, Justin McElroy plays a character named Duck Newton. And in the role-playing system that they use, Monster of the Week, you choose from various archetypes. Instead of like a race or a class, like in Dungeons & Dragons, you choose archetypes. And one of the archetypes that you can choose from is the Chosen One. But Duck Newton is a chosen one who doesn't want to be chosen. He has no interest in saving the world. He is reluctant. And he has to be coerced through supernatural means to be a hero. That's way more interesting. I don't know. Number 20. Holy fuck, this video is going to be long. When the protagonist dies. Thumbs up. I will refrain from mentioning any books specifically here for fear of spoilers. But I really want to say one, but I won't. I like it though. I think it's very bold. It takes a brave writer to do this, I think. And it's not easy to pull off. But when it's done well, it is devastating. And I don't know if parasocial is the right word for the relationship that we develop with a fictional character. It feels like it would apply. But, you know, one of the great powerful experiences of art is coming to love a character and then losing them. Like you lose loved ones in real life. Because death is inevitable for everyone. It's a very powerful experience when it's done well. I feel like it's more common in like television, especially like in the last 10, 15 years. I feel like Game of Thrones kind of made this into a meme a little bit of killing protagonists. But, I mean, honestly, if you watched, because I'm assuming you probably didn't read it first, Game of Thrones, when it first came out, and you didn't have it spoiled for you, and I'm gonna spoil it. They kill Ned at the end of the first season. Like, it was, few experiences in fiction rival that, because it's so crazy. You spend all this time being like, there's no way, because we're conditioned to feel that there's no way, and then they do it, and it's so crazy and so powerful. So yeah, I'm 2 thumbs up on killing your protagonist. 21. Really long chapters. Yeah, I'll give this a thumbs up. I don't have a problem with them. I don't particularly like them. I don't feel anything strongly about them at all, but I don't have a problem with them, so. 22. French flaps. Now, what the fuck are French flaps? Oh. Yeah. That's fine. I mean, who cares? It doesn't affect the readability of the book. Deckled Edges. I believe I know what Deckled Edges are, but let me just make sure. Yeah. Again, like, I think that probably some people feel strongly about this, but, like, on a page-to-page basis, it doesn't really change the ability of how hard it is for you to turn the page of the book, so who cares? I guess, like, the thing that's interesting to me is, like, how do you decide to have deckled edges on your book? Is it up to the author? Or is it up to, like, the designer of the jacket or whatever? I don't know. It's interesting. It's something that I could not give less of a shit about. If I was having my book published and they were like, do you want deckled edges or not? I would probably say not, just because, but, like, who cares? I don't know. 24. Signed copies by the author. I will be in on this, but I think that, like, getting a book from the bookstore that's like a pre-signed copy, this has become really common over the last, like, 10 years. I feel like John Green, like, ruined it for everybody when he did that. Like, he signed the, like, first 1,000,000 copies of Fault in Our Stars or whatever the fuck it was. To me, it's just like, that means nothing to me. Like, it literally means, like, the person who wrote this book touched it physically at some point. Who cares? I like getting books signed when I go to readings, because it's a memento of that experience. Sometimes they'll write nice notes in them, sometimes they won't, but it'll always be a reminder for me that I had that experience. And for that, I think that it's cool. So yeah, I'm in. 25. Dog-earing pages. I'm out on this. I used to do this with little regard when I was younger, but now, like I said earlier, I've become more precious about my books as I've gotten older, and I try to take better care of them, so I don't do this anymore. And finally, we're at the last one. Chapter titles instead of numbers. And I'm in. And I have to be, because my book has them. I would be a fucking hypocrite if I said anything else. I think that this is underutilized. I think that more books should use chapter titles. Because, to me, maybe this is like, I come from a music background originally before I got into writing fiction. When I was a teenager, my main creative output was music. And so song titles, you have, like, an album, which is like a book, and the album has a title, but the songs have titles too, and the songs are like the chapters of the book. I think that, you know, giving the chapter a name can presage and sort of prepare and also encapsulate in the way that titles do. Like, in my book, let me see if I can remember any of the chapter titles off the top of my head. 10,000 Miles in the Mouth of a Graveyard. That's a Bob Dylan quote from Hard Rain's Are Gonna Fall. And it's a chapter about one of the main characters dying and going to their funeral. Like, you read 10,000 Miles in the Mouth of a Graveyard, you don't know what's going to happen, but it creates an anticipation. You say, oh, someone's going to die. There's a graveyard. Like, we're coming to a graveyard. And I think that can be a powerful tool when it's used well. Holy shit, we're at the end. I thought this was going to be a quick little thing for me to do. Rick's video was like 19 minutes long. I don't know how long this is going to be when I edit it, but right now, raw feed, we're at like 40 minutes. Ugh. So thank you for sticking around this long. This is probably going to take me forever to edit because I'm trying to be more... put more effort into it and put images on the screen and things like that. I actually took the time to Google how to overlay images and Shotcut and things. I've known how to use Final Cut Pro and stuff in my life, but I don't have access to that. I don't want to pay for Adobe or anything like that, so I'm using an open source video editor, which I am having to learn. So I finally Googled how to do certain things, and now I know how to do them. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. I don't know. I'm not going to have another... Once again, I am not going to have a weekly wrap-up video this week. I'm thinking about moving to just doing monthly or bi-monthly wrap-up videos just for my own sanity so that I don't feel like pressured to be reading 3-4 books a week, because I'm not able to do that right now. So I am currently reading something pretty fun. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know what that is. So expect that in the near future. Thanks for watching, guys. Good night.